County will no longer read the book Mouse. The award-winning graphic novel was removed from the curriculum after a unanimous vote from the school board. Now, not long after, the board's decision was met with a swift pushback from across the country.
And it's a story that needs to be told, and its story needs to be communicated over and over.
An award-winning graphic novel about the Holocaust is now removed from the McMinn County Schools curriculum. The decision was met with swift pushback from people across the country.
To say how much is too much is, are we going to start censoring parts of our biblical tradition?
McMinn County Schools parent Ashley Lawson doesn't agree with the board's decision to remove Mouse due to curse words.
If your child doesn't know the difference between a word that's not appropriate to say in public and not, then that's a thing that a parent should be having with the student.
And Rabbi Craig Lewis with the Mizpah congregation in Chattanooga doesn't think the board had bad intentions, but
it's a form of suppression of ideas. It's a form of domination.
McMinn County Schools released a statement earlier today saying they don't diminish the value of Mouse, but they, quote, simply do not believe that this work is an appropriate text for our students to study. And as for Lawson and her son,
I'm going to let him read it if he chooses to. I'm not going to force him.
The minutes say the board did discuss redacting parts of the book, but it led to copyright concerns. Ultimately, they removed it entirely. Reporting here in McMinn County, I'm Eric Price, News Channel 9.
In their statement, McMinn County School Board said the atrocities of the Holocaust are shameful beyond description. They go on to say we all have an obligation to ensure younger generations learn of its horror and to make an event like this, or make sure an event like this is never repeated. The board says they don't diminish Mouse's value as impactful literature. They plan to ask administrators to find other age-appropriate books that accomplish the same educational goals.
Mouse's author says he is still trying to wrap his head around this decision. Art Spiegelman wrote the book based on conversations with his dad, who survived the Holocaust in German-controlled Poland. Spiegelman appeared on CNN saying he is baffled by the book's ban, and he believes the decision is nearsighted.
I think they're so myopic in their focus, and they're so afraid of what's implied in having to defend the decision to teach Mouse as part of the curriculum, that it led to this kind of daftly myopic response. It has a real problem with asking the parents to be on board to decide what it's okay to teach the kids.
That you've talked about the impact and the fear that people have had about this book. And look, it was banned in Russia for one thing, but you also talked about the idea of banning books here in the United States. And one of the things you've written is, keep your nose in a book and keep other people's noses out of which book you choose to stick your nose into.
Right, that was made as a bookmark to be given away on Banned Book Week Day in libraries. Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, if anything, my problem is staying focused on this problem because the problems are fast. I mean, this is your news cycle now, but every day there's another sign that what the kids ought to be reading as well, but can't because there are probably too many big words. And I know that in that part of Tennessee, the reading level, only 30% of the students in the schools are at reading level. But I would recommend On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, which connects the dots admirably. He's an estimable historian who wrote Bloodlands. And this best-selling pamphlet book has just come out in an illustrated edition. I didn't look through it to see if there's a body part that shouldn't be seen somewhere, and I don't remember that, but it could be with the graphics. And it's a matter of trying to not only know what happened, but connect it somehow to what's happening to us now.
Can we talk, you were talking about maybe this is a harbinger of what's to come. And you mentioned, when you were in school, maybe there wasn't much taught about the Holocaust. I think there really was more of a reckoning in the 60s and 70s about the importance of talking about it more honestly. And it seemed for decades now that was the prevailing thought, the importance of remembering so that we don't forget. What do you worry is on the horizon if there is a part of this country that cannot be learning about the Holocaust in the way it happened?
Well, I think it's already started happening. Like I said, the dog whistles abound. I think there's a moment in there where I thought Jews were honorary white people, but it seems that after coming against critical race theory is the accusation against books that deal with our history, never facing up to studying the genocide of Indians. It seems that we're back in a category of, and I say that not as a religious Jew, but as clearly a Jew of some kind, even though I don't subscribe to that notion of anyway. Just, I'm sorry, I warned people that it was 8 o'clock and I wouldn't be that articulate. All I'm saying, I guess, is that this is an issue. It's an issue that's way broader than any one group issue, although that's certainly happening. And I found out, like looking at Twitter last night, that today's Holocaust Remembrance Day, International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which adds to the poignancy, irony, and madness of this to some degree, because it's not. One would think that the word remembrance is important. And I sympathize with the teachers who very sincerely have tried to do this, and are baffled by a school board that must, on some level, have just grown up with themselves in the statistic I read last night, which is in that county, only 30% of the students read at grade level. And I guess they were brought up by that educational system themselves.
A violent attack here at East Hamilton High isn't the first incident to have families worried. I spoke today with students, both past and present, and they are concerned.
A lot of people start standing up, and I looked over and they were just fist fighting.
A violent crime at East Hamilton High School ends with a 9th grade girl facing charges.
I just looked back over and she had pulled a knife on her.
Skylar Stewart is a student at East Hamilton High School. He watched as a 9th grade girl stabbed another classmate in the school lunchroom. Have you spoken with your parents at all about this?
Yes, I talked to them about it.
How are they feeling?
She was shocked. She didn't know what to think.
But not everyone is surprised.
Yeah, I've seen some violence happen over there, especially when I was a student there.
David Thomas went to school at Udawal High School. After experiencing major bullying, he transferred to East Hamilton, and he thinks school leaders aren't doing enough to address the bullying and violence.
I think that they would have to change some rules and safety to make it at least a little more safer for kids nowadays.
Hamilton County disciplined 85 students last year for bullying. And while this worries students, a district spokesperson says the number is an improvement.
The number of reported cases of bullying and harassment in Hamilton County schools has steadily declined since the 2015-2016 school year.
Steve DeRamus says the school system saw a high of 322 acts of bullying and violence in 2015. And while COVID likely skews the numbers, he says the cases were declining before the pandemic.
We believe that overall that this program is going to help provide a safer and more productive school environment.
Despite this, students say changes are necessary, and they remain on high alert.
You just never know, so you just got to always watch out.
And we reached out to several Hamilton County School Board members to ask them about the violent attacks and what plans they have in the future to address it. At this time, they are not ready to comment.